day back here in the pump house again. When we get big sap runs throughout the day, and then when night comes and it freezes up and then it gets ready to run the next morning, when it lets go some mornings, you get a flow of sap that the releaser can't even keep up with. It comes in so fast that the electric submersible pump, it just can't pump it up fast enough. What ends up happening is the sap will fill up in the releaser. This is a submersible pump right here, and here's the float. So when the sap gets to about that level, that float kicks on because the sap is lifting this float up, and when it gets to a certain elevation, that float kicks the pump on and the pump sends the sap over here into the tank. But the problem being, when we're getting a massive run first thing in the morning, when everything's thawed out, just imagine thousands and thousands of feet of line thawing out at the same time. It's just a flood, and it could run like that for, I don't know, an hour, 45, depends. It's all different. So it's coming in here into the releaser out of the woods so fast that this pump is pumping, but it can't keep up, and the sap will just keep rising and rising. Now there's one thing you can do, which is what I usually do, is that you can sit here and play with the valves. So I can sit here and basically close these valves down and just control the flow of the sap coming from the woods into the releaser, but that's not really what it's designed to do. You don't want to close off the flow to the woods. You know, it works, but my friend was telling me about these valves on the internet the other day, so I did a little research myself, and I found one, and I ordered 2 of them, one for each woods. This is going to be a game changer right here. So this valve right here, it's called an electronic protection valve. So what that does, this is my vacuum line coming in. So as I was saying earlier, the sap fills up. It'll get so high that the vacuum will suck the sap up into this line. It'll pull it through the pipe all the way down into the moisture trap. This is our moisture trap right here. And if you can see in there, there's a flapper right there. And there's a float on the bottom side of that. So if that sap out there fills up, it sucks that sap up in that pipe, brings it down in here into the moisture trap. The moisture trap is your last line of defense before it goes into that vacuum pump right there. And that's a huge investment, that vacuum pump. Or you get sap in that oil, and that's bad news. Sap will fill up in there, there's a float, and it'll keep pushing that float up, and then eventually it'll close that flapper, it'll shut vacuum off. So there's no more vacuum coming through the pipe into the releaser and all the way out to your woods. And I've had that happen to me a couple years ago, and it wasn't good. It took all day. I didn't even realize that I was gone for a couple hours, and that was a big mess up. But basically, what this valve is right here, this valve is going to do the work for you. So this valve gets mounted in this pipe right here, vertical. Arrow's got to go. There's an arrow on this. The arrow has to go towards the vacuum pump because that's the way the air flows. So basically that arrow would get mounted up just like this. That valve would get plumbed into that line, and basically what that valve does works hand in hand. There's 2 probes that I got to drill. I got to put 2 in, one right here and one on the far end, and they got to be just below this pipe right here. You know, someplace above the float, so the sap level doesn't get any higher than this. And the sap hits the probes of that valve, and that valve will shut the vacuum off to the releaser. That's a game changer. It's going to be so sweet. So basically, you don't even have to be here anymore. I mean, you might have to clean some slush or ice out of that releaser when it's filling up. But that's the main purpose of this valve. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna mount that valve. We got some plumbing to do. There's a control box we gotta hook up to. We'll get after it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount the control box or the control panel. It's right here. It's pretty simple. It's 2 screws I think I can get in there. I'm just gonna screw it right to a couple studs right there on that wall. It's gonna work out great because I already have an outlet right here it has to plug in. But I wanna mount this first to make sure I got enough line and cords to reach everything I gotta reach. So the name of this company is Sap Spy. They're on the internet. They have some YouTube videos too on how to put this together. Super nice people. They're out of Wisconsin. I talked to the owner. Very nice people. But anyways, we're gonna mount this first. All right, so I got 1 screw in there. I'm gonna put another screw in there. I took my small screws home. I got these monster ones. I really don't need them, but it'll work. I got that mounted, I'll show you quick. 2 screws. This will plug in right up here and here to my plug-in, so that'll work good. I got some cable ties too, so I can kind of tighten everything up. But so that stuff's long enough to reach. Next order of business is we're gonna have to cut this pipe someplace right here, and then I can put a reducing bushing on here to go from 3 to 2, and I gotta raise this up and do the same thing from a 3 to 2 on top. So I'm gonna have to cut all these cable ties off here that I got on here temporarily, holding my 12-2 wire coming in. So all those cable ties I'll have to cut off first so I can separate this 12-2 wire off my vacuum line. And then I'm gonna cut that vacuum line probably right about in here someplace, right where that cable tie is. And then we're gonna drop this guy in right here. This is a reducer to go from 3 to 2. Set that on there like that, and then we'll run a small piece of pipe into that valve, come out of that valve with another small piece of pipe into another one of these 3x2 reducers, going back into the 3-inch pipe and back over. I might have to do a double 45 down there someplace, because I'm definitely gonna have to raise this up because I don't have enough. Right now this is good, but once I put this valve in here, it's gonna be higher right here. So we're definitely gonna have to raise that end up to meet that end. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So I got that wire, 12-2 wire, free enough to be able to do what we got to do. So I'm going to cut this off right here first. So the easiest thing to do was just to cut that section of pipe right out, which is what I did. It's gone. I can build back how I want to build it, and then once I get up to that elevation up there, then I can make that adjustment coming down to tie into that existing. So all right, so I got that pipe cut, cleaned, and I glued on that reducing bushing from 3 to 2. So now I've got my other bushings that thread into these 2-inch outlets. So I'm going to thread these into here quick, and then I'll have to cut a stick of 2-inch pipe to go from here to the other one. So we're going to thread these in quick right now. That's pretty tight. We'll put the other side in. So I got those bushings threaded into the valve. Now I got to go cut a piece of 2-inch pipe. I got to take a measurement how far to go from that adapter to this adapter. So we're doing good here. I've got this done here so far. I got the 3 to 2-inch adapter in there, and then I got an 1.5 inch piece of 2-inch in there, stubbed in, glued in, so we're ready for the valve now. Valve is all set. I've got both bushings inside of that. So basically I'm gonna glue both ends of that. We'll set that valve up on there, and that baby's gonna be home. Then we'll come out of the top of that and then redo that top vacuum line. So the most important thing we gotta do when we put this together is make sure that that arrow is pointing up. That airflow goes that way. We don't want to mount it this way. We want to mount it just like that. There you have it right there. The valve is in. Arrow pointing up. So when I called and I talked to Jeff, I asked him if I could mount this valve horizontal in the horizontal pipe. He said that you can. It's not a problem. Just make sure you got pitch in case it does build up a little moisture, so the pitch can, you know, help slope the moisture and get it out. But I actually figured out I might as well just put it in like this. I got enough headroom to do it, so we're doing it the way per instruction. So next step, I got this cleaned. I'm going to glue that. I'm going to drop it in this adapter. Then we'll set this adapter down in there, and then we can take that piece that I cut out over there, hopefully stub that 90 back down in there, and replumb it back over to there. That's probably set up good enough. Now I'm going to glue this. I'll glue the other end of that valve, and we'll drop this right on top. We'll be golden. All right, here's a little better view of it. So now I got to take this other stick of pipe over here. I don't know if you can see that 90 down on the other end of that. So that's gonna 90 right in the top of that. I got this piece, the original piece, my vacuum pipe that I cut off from earlier, I got it down here. I think I got lucky here. I think there's a street elbow under here. Street elbows, it's already got an end on it. You just clamp to it. So I think if I just take off this Fernco, eliminate this piece, I can glue that 90 direct right into that 3-inch adapter. And then if I need this, I'll probably move this and put it over in here someplace. That way, if something ever happens with this releaser, I can still take the pipe apart and take it out of here. So we'll take that off quick right there and we'll see what's going on. This is going to work sweet for that piece up there. So I think I must have already glued it or cleaned it last year for some reason. Must be thinking I was going to put a coupling on there, but I didn't. So we'll get that piece ready. We're going to drop this piece right back in up there, and there's some 45s over there to make that connection work. Got the main pipe glued back on. I'll show you. There it is. So now I'm a little bit long here. So what I'm going to do is I got my 45 cleaned. I'm going to glue that 45 on the end of here first, and then I'm going to cut this back, and then I got another 45 right there. I'm going to glue on this end, and then I'll have a short section of pipe, I don't know, about like that I have to cut. Then I'll end up putting my Fernco back in down here someplace. That way I can always take that apart. So, all right, so I got that 45 glued on there. Here's my other one. So someplace this is going to have to go something like right about in there someplace. All right, so we're down to the last piece of pipe, the last piece of this vacuum line to put back together. So right here, I got a double 45 back in place. Last time, if you saw, it was straight across here. So I got to put this piece in right now. I'm pretty sure it's cut to length. I just got to glue it, put it in, and then I can slide this Fernco right here back over that other half to hook the two together. So we'll do that quick right now. We got the double 45 back in place, up over. I just got to tighten the bolts on that Fernco, and that's a done deal. Then I can start running the wiring from this box along this down. We're gonna hook in right here, and we got to drill 2 probes in here. One right here probably, and one over here on the other side. So we'll do that next. Got this valve plugged in. You can see it's powered on, a little green light on in there. Just got things hanging for right now because I just want to test this valve to see if it works. So I'm gonna touch these 2 wires together right here. They say to use a jumper wire, but it's no different than just touching 2 wires together. So we should hear that valve click open, and we should see another light on that control box light up, letting it know that that valve is closed. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if you could hear that. Yep, it's definitely working. That light means it's, you just hear it close. Now it just opened. We'll do that again. Now I'll let off the wires. That's just basically simulating that the sap level is not touching the probes. Should be like a 10-second delay, and that should open back up. That's sweet. That works real nice. This is going to be so handy. All right, so I know that that works. So now I got to drill 2 holes in this releaser. This is going to be the tricky part. I got to drill holes just below the level of this vacuum line. So I'm guessing someplace in here, I got to find a straight edge, and somehow I can touch this and it'll hit me out here on the round part of that canister. Then I can make a couple holes and drill the holes. So I got to make 2 holes. I got to drill 2 of them. They're 7/16, and then I got a 1/4 inch MPT thread tapper that I got to thread. I got to make threads, got to thread it in there, and then we can put those probes in. So I got the hole drilled. I got the tap started. You can see it right there. I talked to Jeff on the phone, and he told me you want to leave about 7 threads exposed. Tap is tapered, so that way when we do tighten that probe in there, it tightens right up nice and tight. Makes sense. You don't want to thread it all the way out the bottom, because otherwise that, when you go to tighten that probe, it'll just keep tightening and tightening and tightening, and it'll come right out the bottom of the releaser. So if we come up short, it'll stop and it'll make a nice tight fit. So we're gonna finish tapping that. So when you're tapping something, at least me, I like to go, you know, like a full turn and back it out a quarter turn. That way you're kind of cutting it, but then you're trying to, you know, get the material back out of the threads. I think I'm home. So I put a little mark on this tap. You see that little black mark with a Sharpie there? So I marked it so that way there's 7 threads hanging out. So back that out, clean it out, and I should be able to thread one of these probes in there. I got that tapped, I'll show you. Some nice looking threads in there. I got the probe. This is what the probe looks like right here. So I put some thread tape on it, so we're gonna thread this down in there by hand, and then we'll do the other one. So I got one probe in, tightened up. There it is right there. And I got the wire attached to it. It's just loose for now. But I got the rest of the other wires secured. That plug-in's just kind of dangling there for now, but the wires come right across my pump line down behind the box for the releaser, and then you can see the probe in there right there. So now I got a drill one on the other end. Try to get it somewhat in line with this other one. And they say if it's a little bit lower, a little bit higher, it's not a big deal. But basically do the same thing we did to the other side. We'll work this in a little bit, back it out, work it in, back it out. Try to get that plastic to clean out of those threads. Pretty much a done deal. I got that last probe mounted. It's in right there. I'll show you from the bottom side. You can see them both sticking up in right there. One right there, and there's one down on the far end. So basically the sap level will fill up now. And as soon as that sap hits these probes, those 2 probes, that valve right there will shut the vacuum off to this releaser, and it'll allow the level of the sap to come down. And once that sap level comes down below these 2 probes, there's a 10-second delay, and then the valve will open back up. So basically the sap can never get up into that pipe down there and be sucked back through into my vacuum pump. We're gonna put this last one on right here. That last wire there, we'll pull that back, and we'll put a wire nut on top of that so it's not hanging out in the open. So there you have it. The sap spy is all hooked up. I'll run this through one more time. The control box mounted right there. 110 plug in right above it. So when I'm ready to use this, when season starts, I'll just plug that in. That'll put power to it. Power lines coming across. One to the valve, and then the other one is to the probes. Pretty simple. And this wire here I'll pull back, and we'll put a wire nut on that, take that off. But you can see both probes in there, so which is pretty much where you want to be, a couple inches below that. So this is a sweet piece right here. So if you're looking for one of these units, get on the internet and look up Sap Spy. I think it's www.sapspy.com. I think I ordered mine. I had it in 2 days. So really super nice guy to work with. Got that project finished. This is going to be sweet, man. This is going to be a game changer for me. You know, time is of the essence when you're in the maple business, and if I don't have to sit up here and babysit this thing, it's going to be huge. So it went together really sweet. So if you want to protect your $7,000 investment, or however much money you got invested in your vacuum pump, that baby right there, that's the ticket. Thanks for watching.